Today I'm going to help you set up Switcher Studio for musicians and live streaming in 2020. Hi there, my name is Euan and welcome to Euan Smith Music. I'm going to be helping you set up the app Switcher Studio, but before we get into all of that, I would love for you to be able to like and share this video. Just a piece of extra information just to let you know, Switcher have just revealed version 4.5, which includes monetization options for anyone who does live streaming, so that's going to be fantastic for musicians. Look out for a video of that in the future. I think that'd be well worth a subscribe to keep up to date with not only this video, but also future videos in the playlist. Let's head over to the iPad and let's get set up. The way you would get started with this would be to add some sources. In the app, they're actually called assets. First of all, we'll start with the photos on the top left. You can get your photos into Switcher Studio from a range of sources, including the photo library, imported images, files and USB, so that's basically local from the actual iPad itself or from a USB drive plugged into the input, whether it be Lightning or whatever. So as you enter the photo section, you can get various imported sources from either your photo library from the device or imported images from files, a USB imported via the input of the Lightning USB port, or you can of course go to the website, the dashboard, Switcher Cloud, and you can use the website there to upload files which you can then import into the app straight away. There are also samples that you can use which include the Switcher Studio logo and other examples that you can use just to basically get a test. Moving on, you've got the video sources. Those are things such as B-roll of your band or recording that you want to be able to play over you speaking when you're doing a live stream, or indeed if you want to use it for pre-editing video as well, it's quite handy to be able to do that. So again, you can import from the photo library imported videos, etc. Also your recordings which are local to the device as well. So you've got a range of different sources, fairly self-explanatory there. To create text and graphics in the app, you use the text and graphics tab. Using different versions of titles, you can then edit all of these. So if I was to select, for example, welcome to the show, you can then change the text to just say hi and welcome. So you can just simply do that and then change the different size of the text. So obviously that might be too big, so you want to scale that down. So hi and welcome. You can change the text color as well as you go down here, so in case you don't want it to be white, in case you want it to be blue instead. Hi and welcome to the show, you can change that there. Once you have set all the different settings, you can preview what it will look like by pressing the triangle at the top of the page. Hi and welcome to the show. Once you're done, you can hit that and then it's ready to go into your show as well. So that's the titles. As you go into other text and graphics, you've got something called lower thirds, social overlays, broadcasts, logos, image, and images lower third. Now lower third is basically just a small title that appears at the bottom of the page, and they've got some preset ones as well. Again, same idea, you can edit the parameters for the colors and the positioning but just by dragging around the screen. Clicking the play icon will give you a preview of what it will look like in your video, and then once you're happy with that, click done and then you're fine. Social overlays are when you can use your other social networks links. You can then put it on the page. So if you were talking about, hi, make sure that you follow me on Euan Smith Music. I'm available on all social networks. So you just be having your video, your source video, and you say, hi, follow me on Euan Smith Music, and that's basically it. But you want to know, where is the video? Where are these other cameras and things? Well, once you're happy with all your assets, photos, videos, text, graphics, and logos, then you can hit input, and then you can select which sources are on your Wi-Fi network. So I've been using another iPad to screen record this one, so when I tap on it, it's not going to allow me to use the camera. It comes up with an error, so that's fine. But usually when you have added yours to the Wi-Fi network, you will be able to add yours very, very happily, and you will be able to have yours as a source which will appear on the top left hand side of the screen, and then you can overlay your other elements as well. So the next area of the app that we want to have a look at is the bottom right hand side. You've got lots of options across the bottom here, and we'll go through them very, very quickly. So first of all, you've got the zoom feature, which on your chosen camera source that you're using, you want to enable zoom or not to be able to pinch and zoom or raise the magnification if you wanted to zoom into a particular point. The focus section, which is the second one down, auto, manual, or lock. I tend to lock most of these so you don't have the annoying aspect of constantly focusing in on your video all the way through your live stream or your pre-record video. Exposure and white balance and LED light, fairly self-explanatory. I don't tend to use any of these. LED light is handy if you were in a dark area and you want the torch to be on. You can quite usefully do that. It's an extra light to put onto whatever you're focusing on. Stabilization and lock autofocus when live. I think out of those two, lock autofocus when live is really handy, so that whatever you do, if you're moving around, it will always retain the focus when you go back to your original spot. Moving over to the inputs then, much like before, you can see the list of both inputs for your audio and also your video on the Wi-Fi network. But you won't really need to see that, it's just more of a check. Moving on to the outputs then, this is where you will be streaming to. If you just want a local recording to your device, you will just hit none, as is already the case at the moment. Absolutely set these up both within the app, but you can also set these up within the Switcher Studio website as well. You've got different ways of doing that. Whatever output you want, you've got Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. These are all native to the app. If you've got a custom RTMP, which basically means if you've got something like Restream where you're broadcasting to more than one social network, you can then set that up in there. I'll go into a bit more detail in a separate video about that if you wanted to stream to multiple sources at the same time. The rest is fairly self-explanatory. Use each of the different websites to set up the streaming environments. Read all of the instructions for YouTube, Twitch, etc. Each have got their own streaming preferences. Quite usefully though, when you go, for example, connecting to YouTube, you can actually test a stream, and via the device you will then be able to find the best environment, best kind of upload speed, download speed, to be able to help get the best optimum stream for you. Moving over to the audio, you'll be able to see at the moment the iPad that I'm using uses just the built-in audio, but this is not the source. I'm using a different microphone for the device that's recording this video. So the built-in microphone is the one that I'm using for this current iPad, but of course you can use the USB camera connection kit and attach a USB mixer to that, and that's how you can get good quality microphone audio into there. The more audio sources you've got, the more you can choose between them, and if you can click on the cog on each, you can then filter out which, if you want to boost the volume or if you want to change from stereo to mono, etc., you can do that. The next tab along is the effects. This is basically the transitions that happen between your videos. So for example, if you wanted to have different type of effects, you can have something like picture in picture. You can have also the different transitions that will happen. So at the top of your screen you'll see transition, cut, cross dissolve, wipe, cube and twist. These are different ways you can then change between each scene, each different camera source. Cross dissolve being the most popular, and when you click on the little arrow to the right, you can change the duration of how long that wipe, or how long that effect rather, would take. So you can then filter through each of these as well. As you scroll down, you can see the multi-view options. Now this is quite handy because you can then change the way in which you view, and of course you can then change what that looks like, and I will show you what that looks like within the inputs. So if I was to go into multi-views in my input and I go into, for example, dashboard, you can then have 2, 3 or 4 different sources on the screen at the same time. If you're thinking about different ways you can then bring in different devices, it's quite handy. So different sources there. So you could have as a band a camera on your lead singer, camera on different sections of your band, could have on a drummer, for example, different cameras on different parts of the drum. So you could do tutorial videos, live gig videos, and all sorts of possibilities with this. Split screen, fairly self-explanatory. You can change the direction of that split screen using the dials below, and of course many more options as well, including separator, thickness, color, and whether you want it to be centered or not. Flap is quite useful because again that brings in main and secondary focus sources there, and you can change the angle of these, you can change the scale of each of these, you can change the aspect ratio, the depth, the width, lots of settings to be played with there. Slots, same idea as before. You can have 2, 3 or 4 sources for slots and change the thickness and direction as well. And lastly, picture in picture, the most common I think of the views that you might be using. I use a lot of these within the videos that I make. You can certainly have different key aspects of this. You can change the parameters of both A and B video, you can change the positioning, you can change where it is on the screen, X and Y, you can change the positioning in terms of pitch and yaw, which is quite useful, and you can drag it around the screen just by holding and touching the screen itself. So it's quite handy to be able to do that. So back to multi-view. So whenever you're happy with any of these, so for example if you want picture in picture and you think I want to use that, then you will just click done and it will appear in your sources just here. But of course be warned, you do need to have 2 sources to be able to make that work. So you'd have an A source and a B source, 1 camera view and a second camera view. So if we move over to Facebook polling and Facebook chat, these are the next 2 of the bottom right hand side of the app. So loading polls and loading chat. This is basically when you are streaming and you've got a Facebook live, you can then put out a poll to your watchers, to your listeners, and you can then load the results of that poll. Same with the live comments, you'll be able to see all the comments to save you from having a website open, an extra source streaming on a different web page, for example. You can do do this all within Switcher Studio, and you can load those comments and you can manage all the comments that come in for your live streams, which is quite handy. So if anyone says, oh, I really like that track, but where can I buy this? Really just call that out when you're doing your live streams. Next tab along is video chat. Now video chat is a fairly new feature. It's one I've used to experiment. It's quite handy if you just want to have a jam with another person. It's a little bit tricky to set up. So there are tutorial videos, and I have done a tutorial and I will be updating that for 2020, so do look out for that as well. The video chat feature is quite handy because you then, obviously as the name suggests, you can bring in another source, and all they do is you send them a link. The link you can get via your dashboard on the Switcher Studio website. You can send a link to the person, they then tap that, you then set up the room from a desktop. You'll be able to say, right, this is my source, this is my audio, this is my camera source, and then you'll be able to then set up a room. The person who joins the room will be able to see you. You can then bring that person in as a source to Switcher Studio. You'll notice the yellow box says chat is not compatible with director mode. That's because director mode is on. Director mode is if you want to do a live stream but you want to capture the output, you can capture that in 1080p to have if you want to edit it later. So if you've done a gig and you've streamed it at 720, you want to have a good 1080p source, then director mode is what will allow you to capture that video to be able to then edit it for YouTube channel, whatever you've got. So you would turn that off and then you would go back to your video chat and you can see that yellow bar has gone. I could set up a room on the website, and then basically once you've added that room, once you've got everything set up, you will then join the room from the app, and then you will then invite your guests or send them a link as well. You can show guests as sources, which is quite handy. They'll appear on the left hand side, and then basically once that's happened, you'll then be able to bring them in. Next feature along is the scoreboard. So if you're streaming sports events or indeed quizzes or chess or anything like that, any kind of sporting event where it requires a scoreboard, you can then display a scoreboard and edit the parameters of that scoreboard, which is quite handy. So I've got one very quickly set up, me against someone called Sam. You can change the template, so here's a kind of horizontal version at the bottom so as not to take up too much of your screen. You can of course reset the score as well. Again, that's something you can do from within the app. You don't have to have it as a source, so you can display it and keep it off. But of course it's just worth knowing that if you're going to be using the scoreboard, you can leave that tab on and then you can tab away to other things and it will always remain on until you tell it to go off. Last one is just about how you customize the view at the bottom. So if you think, oh, I don't want to scroll along to get audio output or video chat or anything and you want to move them up earlier, then it's well worth moving some of these things earlier in the list. So you can move them just by quickly clicking and dragging, and there they are reordered at the bottom. I'll also be uploading other videos in the sequence as well for music making and tips and tricks as usual, but of course these are additional ones during the lockdown. That is how you can set up the app for your band or musicians' performances. The video on the top is one that I think you will love, and the one on the bottom is one that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. If you would like to know more about how to make your music masterpiece, then don't forget to click like and subscribe. See you in the next video next week. Bye bye.